You all welcome to Metric Hub. Right. Today I'm going to do a revision on personal management and for exam revision. It's an exam revision. So I'm going to revise a full paper. So I'm going straight to section A, right, whereby you're supposed to answer all the questions. You're supposed to answer all the questions. Right, let's go to question 1. Choose one term from the list below for each of the following description and write it next to the question number. So I'm going to give the correct answer, right? Like, let's go to 1.1. The ratio of output to input, that's what we call productivity. Productivity is the ratio of output to input. Productivity is the ratio of output to input. That was what we call productivity. Right, let's go to 1.2. Alteration in one or more elements of the organization, voluntarily or by force. That's what we call change. Organizational change. When the organization alter one element or more elements within the organization, that's what we call organizational change. Organizational change. Organizational change. When an organization alters one element or more. Right, let's go to 1.3. Direct the actions of the employees based on the leader's formal position. Right, when the leader is directing actions of employees based on his formal position, that's what you call legitimate power. Legitimate power. That's what we call legitimate power. Right? Remember that there are 5 types of power, whereby we have what we call coercive power, expert power. We also have legitimate power. We also have position power, etc. Right. Let's go to 1.4. 1.4. It is expressed during a ratio, e.g., 1:5, which is what we call a span of control. A span of control. It is expressed in a ratio, right? Span of control. Span of control, right? That's 1:5, meaning to say there are 5 employees reporting to 1 manager. 5 employees reporting to 1 manager. Let's move on to question 1.5. Direct the organization to be guided by orderly and logical activities. That's what we call planning. Planning, the planning process. Planning, the planning process. All right, let's move on to 1.6. It can be structured by using time and motion studies. Right, what can be structured by using time and motion studies? That's what we call observation. Observation. Right. So let's move on to question 1.7. It is necessary for the efficient functioning of the organization as no superior can personally accomplish all his or her department's tasks. That's what we call delegation. Delegation, whereby he's supposed to assign tasks to lower level management, right? Assigning tasks to lower level management. That's what we call delegation, right? Let's go to 1.8. It is important how these problems are handled by management. A problem here is conflict. How conflict is handled by by management is very important. How they handle conflict, it is very important. Right, let's go to 1.9. Implementing it in the workplace decreases waste of time, material, and energy. Right, that's what we call work study. Work study. It reduces what? It reduces wastage of time, material, and energy. Work study. work study. Let's go to 1.10. The level of the quality of the workers is investigated. The level of the quality of the workers is investigated. That's what you call human resource auditing, HR auditing, human resource auditing. That's auditing. Right, let's go to 1.2. 1.2. 1.2. 1.2. Right. 1.2. Right, let's go to question 2. Indicate whether the following statements are true or false by writing only true or false next to the question number in the answer box. Right. 2.1, effectiveness refers to doing the right things. That's true. The answer is true. Efficiency is defined as process of doing the right things. True. Process of doing the right things. That's what we call effectiveness. Right? Effectiveness. Right. Let's go to 2.2. Motivation is a management task. That's false. Motivation is an additional management task. Right. That's true. Sorry, that's true. It is what? A management task on the additional management task. Additional management task. Let's go to 2.3. 2.3. Policies are broad guidelines for an organization and guides managers and workers in the workplace to make decisions, right? So the answer is true. Policies are broad guidelines that guide the management in making decisions. Let's go to 2.4. Referrals and personnel records are external sources of recruitment. Referrals and personnel records are external sources of recruitment. That's false. That's false. Referrals is an external source, right, of recruitment, but personnel records is an internal source of recruitment, right? So referrals are what? External sources, and then this one is an internal source of recruitment. So they are not both external sources of recruitment. So the answer is what? Is false. It's false. Let's go to 2.5. To ensure productivity, legislation should be challenged. To ensure productivity, legislation should be challenged. That's true. That's true. Right. Let's go to 2.6. 2.6. Right. Transactional analysis aims to reduce destructive communication habits that cause conflict between people. Right. That's true. That's true. That's true. Right. Let's go to 2.7. Job specification spells out what an incubate does, how it should be done, and why it should be done. Right. So the answer is what? Right. The answer is false. False. Job specification refers to the what? To the qualifications, to the trainings that the incubate possess in order to occupy a certain position. Right, let's go to 2.8. Communication is a two-way process between sender and receiver. Communication is a two-way process. That's true. That's true. Right. It's a two-way process between the sender and the receiver. Right. Let's go to 2.9. 2.9. Screening by the Human Resource Department based on a completed job application is part of the selection process. That's true. That's true. Screening is part of the what? Of the selection process. Let's go to 2.10. Job specification is a genetic attitude that people have about their job. That's false. It is a general attitude, not a generic. It's not a generic, but it's a general attitude. It's a general attitude. It is a general attitude that employees have about their job. And remember, job satisfaction can be negative or positive attitude, right? Depending on what the employee feels about the organization. Right, let's move on to question 3. Question 3, right? Read the following scenario and answer the question, right? So unfortunately, I'm not going to read the scenario, but I'm going to answer the question for the time sake, right? So let's go to question 3. Question 3. Right. So I'm going to state to question 3.1. State 5 common areas where change becomes necessary for the college. Right. Right. We have what we call adaptation to economical changes. Adaptation to economical changes. Adaptation to economical changes. It's also an area where change is possible when the organization wants to adapt to economical changes. For example, we're talking about a high borrowing rate and also inflation, right? And then adaptation in technology. Adaptation in or to technology. Adaptation to technology requires the organization to change. Right. For example, advancement, use of machines, right? And then adaptation in social change, adaptation to social change. To social change also facilitates what? Facilitates change, right? As well as adaptation to political change. Adaptation to political change, right? New business policies, new business legislation. It means that the organization has to change so that they can adhere to the political changes, right? And enterprise change, right? Enterprise change, right? These are the common areas where change becomes necessary. Adaptation to economical changes, adaptation to technology, adaptation to social change, political change, and the enterprise change or enterprise structure, right? Culture or structure. So let's move on to 2.3, 2.2, 3.2, 3.2, 3.2, 3.2. Name and explain 7 reasons why an individual like Miss Rachel can resist change in the organization. So here we're going to discuss why individuals resist change. Why individuals resist change. Why individuals resist change. Why does individual resist change within the organization? Why individuals resist change in an organization? Right. So individuals resist change due to, one, it may be due to habits, right? Human beings are habitual beings. They follow a certain pattern of life, of living. Any interruption in the pattern might cause resistant to change. It might be due to security, whereby people are afraid that change might um, cause them to lose their jobs, uncertainties about their future, right? Another reason for resistance is fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown, right? Whereby employees becomes uncertain about the change and how it will affect their work and their lives. So they end up resisting the change, right? Also have incomplete information, which is also another reason for resistance to change. Incomplete information. When change is being introduced and employees do not have full information about what? About the change, they tend to resist um, change, right? Let's also, another reason for resistance to change also is due to economic factors. Economic factors, whereby they are afraid that they might lose their what? Their income. They might resist change because they are afraid of losing their income. And lastly, it might be due to threats to social system. Threat to social systems. Threat to social systems. Right. Whereby social relationships that were developed over the years, right, might might be affected if employees feel if they agree to change. So they end up resisting to change because they don't want to lose their what social relationships that were developed within the workplace. Right, people within the workplace, they form friendship. Right, so individuals, they resist change because they do not want to lose their friendship with the colleagues, etc. Right. So let's go to 3.3. 3.3. Name and explain 4 categories of the activities of the human resource department. Right. Categories of the human resource department. Right. 3.3. Categories of the human resource department. Right. Categories of the human resource department, right? So these include one, we have what we call human resource provisioning, human resource provisioning, human resource provisioning, right? So here, human resource provisioning includes human resource planning, human resource planning. It also includes job analysis. It also includes induction, placement, advertisement, placement, advertisement, etc. Right. So let's move on to another category, which is category number 2, which is the human resource maintenance. Human resource maintenance. Human resource maintenance. Human resource maintenance. Right. So human resource maintenance includes activities in the human resource maintenance, includes setting of remuneration strategies, remuneration strategies. It also includes incentive schemes, it includes fringe benefits, and and implementing health and safety. Implementing health and safety. Right. Let's go to our category number 3, which is human resource utilization. Human resource utilization. Human resource utilization, which includes motivation, which includes motivation, which also includes productivity, which also includes promotion, transfer. It also includes discipline, etc. Discipline, etc. Right. So let's move on to the last one, the last category, which is the human resource development. Human resource development. Human resource development. Human resource development. Right. Human resource development includes training, succession planning, and development. Human resource development. Right. So these are the four categories of human resource development. We have human resource, four categories of human resource department. We have human resource provisioning, and then human resource maintenance, human resource utilization, and human resource development. Human resource development. Let's go to 3.4. State 4 methods that the college can use to assist Miss Rachel Raphael to overcome resistance to change. So here we're going to list the methods to resist change. Methods for resistance to change. Methods used to resist change. 3.4. Method that the college can implement to resist change. Right? We have education and communication. Education and communication. We also have participation and involvement. Whereby they can allow employees to participate during the change or when implementing change, and they involve them, right, in the change process, right. We also have education and support. Education and support, whereby management can educate the employees and support them during the change process. Education and support. And you also have another method, which is manipulation and competition. And competition. And also negotiation and agreement. And agreement. And lastly, cohesive or cohesion. So these are the methods of managing resistance to change. They can educate employees within the organization so that they will not resist change. They communicate with them about the change and the necessity of change, right? And then you allow them to participate during the change process, and involve them, educate them, and support them during the change, right? They can be manipulated and co-opted, right? Negotiation, they negotiate with them and then they'll come up with an agreement, or they can threaten them so that they can agree to change. That's coercion, where they use threats and punishment to force them to not to resist change. Right, let's move on to 3.5. State one role that the Human Resource Department can play in managing the change. The role that the Human Resource can play to manage to change. Right. They can continuously evaluate the critical performance areas of the change process, evaluating critical change areas, right? Right. And do revise when necessary. Right. So let's move on to question 4. Question 4. Question 4. Question 4. Right. Name 3 functions of the human resource manager. Right. The human resource manager has 3 functions, which is the service function, whereby it provides recruitment services, right, to the entire organization. The service function, right? It offers what you call the control functions. The control function and the advisory function. Offer the advisory function, whereby he can advise, right, other managers or other departments, right? So let's move on to question 4.2. 4.2. Right. Organizations need to have skills inventory, as it provides information on the skills of the employees who are currently working for the organization. State 5 types of information that could be part of the content of the skills inventory. Right. Skills inventory, we are going to discuss content of the skills inventory. Skills inventory. Right. So the content of the skills inventory includes personal information, personal information, e.g., the name, the sex, date of birth, right? It also includes all trainings of the employees who are currently within an organization, e.g., diploma, certificates, degrees, etc. It also contains a complete record of all previous employees. Complete record of all previous employees. All previous employees. It also includes the results of performance appraisal, results of performance appraisal, results of performance appraisals, right? And lastly, potential career prospects. Potential career prospects. Potential career prospects of the employees. Let's go to question 4.3. Productivity in the workplace in South Africa is said to be on the decline. Give 5 reasons for low decline in South Africa. Reasons for low decline in South Africa. Right. There is lack of cooperation between management and employees. Right. Let's go to question 4.3. Reasons for decline in productivity. Reason for the decline in productivity in SA, South Africa. Right. So the reasons include lack of cooperation. There is no cooperation between management and employees. That triggers or causes what? Decline in productivity. Management and employees. Right. There is also too much attention paid to formal procedures. Too much attention paid to formal procedures or processes. 3, outdated methods of remuneration. We use outdated methods of remuneration. Right. Also, due to decrease in research and development. In research and development, there's a decrease in research and development. Right. Another reason is due to concentration on efficiency instead of seeking ways to become more effective, whereby the organization concentrates on efficiency rather than efficiency, effective rather than effectiveness. Let's move on to question 4.4. State 5 characteristics of a closed threatening culture in an organization. Right. A closed threatening culture. 4.4. Characteristics of a closed culture. Right. So characteristics includes 1, outputs are usually high. Outputs are high in a closed culture. 2, it has a narrow span of control. There's a narrow span of control. Meaning to say there are few employees reporting to a manager. And then emphasis is on individual performance and teamwork is not encouraged. Is on individual performance and teamwork is not encouraged. Teamwork is not encouraged. It's not encouraged in a closed culture. Right. And you can find that in a closed culture, responsibility remains with individual doing the work. Responsibility remains with the individual doing the work. Doing the work. Right. And lastly, you can find that high production, but low motivated employees. Mean to say production is high since employees, they do the task according to the instructions, but they are not motivated. They are not motivated. Right. So let's move on to question 4.5. 4.5. Name 4 basic management tasks. Right. Basic management tasks. Basic management task. Right. You're supposed to name basic management task. So these include first block, right? Block. That's the abbreviation, right, for basic management task, whereby P for planning, L for leading, C for organizing, and O for organizing, and C for controlling. C for controlling. So that's block, right? Planning, leading, organizing, and controlling, right? So let's move on to question 5. Question 5. Question 5. Let's go to question 5. Let's go to question 5. Question 5. Let's go to question 5. Question 5. Right. Right. 5.1. Name 5 organizational development techniques. Right. We're going to list organizational development techniques. Right. So 5.1. Right. So organizational development techniques include 1, sensitivity training. 2, attitude surveys. 3, team building. 4, we have process consultation. 5, we have transactional development. And lastly, we have what we call behavioral or behavior modeling. Behavioral modeling, right? So let's move on to 5.2. 5.2. State 5 activities that are carried out during the human resource auditing. And so we're going to write steps involved in human resource auditing. Right. 5 steps, right, in the human resource auditing. Right. So these steps include the first step, step 1, we have what we call job analysis. A job analysis is done. We do a job analysis of all employees in order to determine the quality of work, right? And then step number 2, whereby performance is measured against job description. Is measured against job descriptions. Step number 3, whereby the quality of workers is investigated. The quality of workers is investigated. And then step number 4, internal movement of people, of employees. Internal movement of employees in terms of promotion and transfer is investigated. And step number 5, whereby the current shortage of employees is identified. Are identified. Right. So this is the steps involved in the human resource auditing. Job analysis of employees is investigated to determine the quality of work that they are doing or what they are performing over a given period of time. After that, work performance is measured against job description. Once they've done that, the quality of workers is also investigated in internal movement in terms of what promotion and transfer is investigated, and the current shortages are identified. And remember, human resource auditing is the supply side of the what? Human resource equation. It's the supply side of the human resource equation. Right. So let's move on to question 5.3. Discuss 5 uses of job analysis. Right here, we are going to discuss uses of job analysis. Right. Uses of job analysis. Right. So 5.3. Right. Job analysis. Uses of a job analysis. Right? It is used in human resource planning. It's used in human resource planning. Right? It is used in recruitment, selection, and placement. It is also used in training and development. It's used in training and development. It is also used in employee performance appraisal. Employees performance appraisal. And in identifying individual career planning. Individual career planning is used in identifying individual career planning, right? And also ensuring a healthy and safe environment use job analysis, as well as the setting up the correct remuneration structures. Right. So let's go back to question 5.4. 5.4. List the 5 barriers to delegation. So we're going to discuss 6 barriers. List 6 barriers to delegation. Right. Barriers to delegation. Right. So a manager who could not delegate might be one when he is too disorganized. He is too disorganized. Right? Or inflexible to delegate. The manager who is too, it becomes a barrier if the manager is too organized and inflexible to delegate. Right. 2, when he has insecurities, it will be difficult. It becomes a barrier to delegate. When he fears, when the manager fears that his authority will be reduced, when he fears that his authority will be reduced, you resist, it becomes a barrier to delegation. And when he is threatened by the subordinate success. And lastly, when the subordinates wants to avoid responsibilities and risk becomes a barrier to delegate. Right. Let's go to 5.5. Right. State 3 advantages of division of labor. Advantages of the division of labor. Advantages of the division of labor. Right. 5.5. Advantages of division of labor. You can find that no time, no wastage of time. There's no wastage of time. No wastage of time. Right. And you can find that it promotes efficiency. And lastly, increased productivity. Increased productivity. Right. So let's move on to question 6. Question 6. Right. 6.1. State 4 barriers to creating an open, participative culture. So here we are going to give disadvantages of an open culture. Question 6. Question 6. Question 6. Right. 6.1. Right. Disadvantages. Disadvantages. Disadvantages of an open culture. Right. Disadvantages of an open culture includes 1. Employees have limited abilities, training, and interest. They have limited abilities, training, and interests. Right. 2. Managers or management is autocratic. Then autocratic management structure, which is a disadvantage. Right. You can find that there is little initiative to create positive culture. To create positive culture. And lastly, the present enterprise, the present enterprise policy has limits. Has limits. Right. So let's go to 6.2. 6.2. Right. Human resource manager has three authority which give the manager a unique role to play in the business. Name three authority, explain each authority and identify their power basis. Authority of the authority of the manager. We are going to give authorities of the manager and powers. Authority of the managers and powers of the manager. Right. Answer this question. To answer this question, right? Right. So 6.2 types of authority. Right. We want to call line authority. Line authority involves the what? The power based on position power. This one is based on position power. Based on position power, that whereby when the employees have, when the manager has authority over employees reporting directly to him. That's what we call line authority. There's another one which is called staff authority. Staff authority. Whereby we are talking about an expert, right, introduced into the organization. So it is based on expert power. An expert is introduced to the organization who will give what? His expert advice to the manager, right? And then we have another authority which is functional authority, which is authority or right of a manager to enforce procedures, regulations, and policies outside the human resource department. Outside the human resource department, right? So let's move on to question 6.3. State 6 steps of the recruitment process. Steps of the recruitment process. Steps of the recruitment process. 6.3. Steps of the recruitment process includes 1. The first step is you assess the organization in terms of its effectiveness. Assess the organization in terms of its effectiveness, right? Is it effective? Right. Number two, that's when you obtain approval from management for a position in terms of budget and necessity. Obtain approval for a position in terms of necessity in terms of necessity. Is it necessary to employ or to recruit in terms of necessity and budget? Do we have enough money to pay for the salary? And then you go to step number 3, whereby you update the job description and the job specification. You update the job description and job specification. And then step number 4, that's when you choose the recruitment media. Choose the recruitment media. You choose the recruitment media. And then step number 5, that's when you evaluate applicants. Evaluate applicants. You evaluate applicants and compile a short list. A short list. Right. For initial interviews. And then lastly, you notify successful applicants. Successful applicants. We make arrangement for the second interview. And make arrangement for the second interview. Right. Let's move on to question 6.4. 6.4. State 5 expectations that the employees have of the organization. Right. So employees are expected. Employees are expected. They expect the organization to 6.4 to offer meaningful work. They expect the management or the employer to offer meaningful work. They're expecting the management to provide challenging, and interesting work. Yeah, they want the management to provide challenging and interesting work. 3, they expect the management to provide opportunities for development. Opportunities for development. They are also expecting management to provide job security and benefits. As well as to recognize a job performance. Recognize a good performance. Want to recognize a good performance. So let's move on to question 6.5. 6.5. Name 3 parts of the method study. Parts of the method study includes 6.5. We have process analysis, whereby the process is being analyzed. 2, working analysis, whereby you are analyzing where you are working. And action analysis. They analyze how the employee is doing his job. Right. So let's move on to 6.6. Right. What does MBO stands for? M stands for management of business, for B. Sorry, it is management by objective. Management by management by objective. Management by objective. Management by objective. Right. MOB stands for management by objective. Right. So let's move on to question 7. Right. Question 7. Question 7. Right. 7.1. State 5 factors that influence job satisfaction. Right. We have 1 factor that can influence challenging work. Challenging work. It might be the rewards that reflects the effort. That reflects the effort. May be due to physical environment, working environment, or conditions. Also contribute to what? To job satisfaction. Supportive colleagues. And having the job that fits your personality. That fits your personality. Personality. Right. Let's move on to 7.2. State 5 guidelines that can be followed to be an effective job analyst. You're supposed to be well prepared. Guidelines followed. 7.2. Be well prepared. Be well prepared. Two, you're supposed to ask meaningful questions. You're supposed to ensure that communication does not break down. Does not break down. And you're supposed never to ask leading questions. Right. And ask questions in a logical. Ask questions in a logical sequence. And lastly, do not settle for wrong question answers. Do not settle for wrong answers. Wrong answers. Right. Okay, let's move on to 7.3. State 5 rules to ensure the success of communication relevant to those involved in the management process. 5 rules. 5 rules for successful communication. 7.3. Communicate in a language that the receiver can understand. That the receiver can understand. If possible, two, instructions must be explained clearly. And explanations must be clear. 3, repeat communication where necessary. Right. Listen carefully to feedback. We're supposed to listen carefully to feedback. And lastly, ensure a climate of trust. Right. Let's go to 7.4. State 5 objectives of the human resource auditing. Right. Objectives of the human resource auditing. Right. They want to look how efficient, so how effective and efficient the labor force how effective, efficient and effective the labor force has been in the past, and also they want to establish how efficient the labor force at the moment. At the moment, and also to compare the effectiveness and efficiency and efficiency of other enterprise producing similar products or services. Right. To translate the effectiveness and efficiency into the cost of labor. And lastly, to establish the benefits, that the labor force holds for the enterprise as a whole. Right. So let's go to the last question. This says name, 7.5 name, 5 benefits that employees can receive in an organization. So here we're going to just list the benefits that employees receives in an organization. Right. Types of benefits. Right. 7.5. Right. We have what we call pension scheme. Two, we have what we call personal security benefits. There's what we call personal needs benefits. We also have financial. There's also what we call financial assistance benefit. Company, car, and petrol. And lastly, improvement to the standard of living. Right. So these are the benefits that employees who work for the organization receive. Pension schemes, personal security, personal needs, financial assistance, company cars and petrol, improvement to the standard of living. Right. So that's these are what we call benefits that the employees can receive. Right. Thank you so much for your time.